Get ready with me while I tell you guys one of the most toxic friends I've ever had in my entire life. Also guys, today I am in Mumbai for a branded shoot and I have to leave in like half an hour. So let's get ready while I tell you guys the story time. The story time contains topics of suicide, self-harm and toxic family issues. So if you're somebody who is sensitive to these topics, I would recommend you guys not to watch it or watch it with a guided parent or somebody older. And the reason why I'm talking about this topic on my YouTube channel is so that you guys make better choices than I did back when I was younger and I was going through these issues. The story starts back when I was in school. Yes, I know I have a lot of traumatic stories from my school life, but what to do? I had a traumatic childhood, guys. I was the kind of student who wouldn't study. I was just very, very lazy. So what did my parents do in this situation? They put me for tuitions, okay? And the first day that I went for tuition, I made a friend. Let's call her Akansha, okay? So Akansha was this extremely bubbly, sweet, friendly girl who would be friends with everyone in the tuition, honestly. And the timing of my tuitions was at 4 o'clock. So 3 o'clock my school would end and after school I would go for tuitions, okay? And I would meet this girl every single day, and since I was hanging around with her so much, obviously she and I became best friends. Now the crazy thing is, I was around 13-14 years old during this time, and this woman was like 1 year older than me, so she was 14-15, okay? And she had a lot of traumatic stories from her childhood. So she would kind of trauma dump on me, okay? She would tell me stories about her childhood and how her living condition is back at home. And back at the time, I did not know that I was being trauma dumped. I was just listening to her stories, okay? One of the traumatic stories that Akansha shared with me was the fact that when she was born, like a couple of months old, her mom committed suicide by hanging herself. So she told me how her mom committed suicide and she only had a dad, and so she started living with her grandmother and her dad and her brother. So she did come from a very sad background where, you know, her mom has committed suicide, she has no mom, she has only her dad, and her house is a very toxic environment for her. One thing about Akansha is that she went to the same school as me. So I would meet her in school as well, and then later on I would also meet her in tuition. But then since she was a senior of mine in school, we wouldn't hang out that often, but I would meet her once in a while in school as well. It all started with her trauma dumping on me, but things got a little too out of hand and serious when she started romanticizing self-harm. This woman would romanticize self-harming so much that every day she would come to school with cuts on her hand, okay, and she would show off about it. She would literally show it to me saying, look at how much I've cut today, this is how much I've bled, and you know, I've written an entire notebook with my blood. And because she would say it with so much of happiness that she's doing it, I did not think of it as a serious issue. And this girl used to very, very casually talk about killing herself, suicide and all of that. Like, she wouldn't even understand the depth of these words, and she would just throw around words so casually, which was so toxic from her end. If you know somebody who's self-harming, please seek help or talk to an elder person if you don't know what to do in the situation. I did not know what to do in the situation, so I just played along, but please seek help if you're going through something like this. A couple of months after she and I became friends, she got into a relationship with a guy, and that relationship was extremely toxic. Like, they would fight for the smallest things, they would have a lot of misunderstandings. It was a very immature relationship, and because her relationship with this guy was going so badly, she would self-harm. She was already the kind of person who would self-harm, but because of this relationship, she was doing it a lot more. So she would come to school every day with cuts on her hand and be like, look at the amount of cuts I have. And then she would start cutting her thighs as well. Like, she had a lot of cuts like all over her body, and she would just wear it like one badge or something. She was not even concerned for herself that this is something wrong that she's doing. So one random day what happened, that boyfriend of hers broke up with her. So she was like super upset about it, and she was like, you know what, I want to get drunk. So she dragged me to an MRT. Back then, I wasn't the kind of friend who had a lot of sense in her head, but then I knew that I couldn't leave my friend alone when she's going through a tough time. So I was like, okay, you want to make a bad decision? I'm going to make that bad decision with you. That's the kind of friend I was. She bought a bottle of vodka and she was like, okay, let's go back home because I want to be safe while I drink. So she and I bought the bottle of vodka and then we went back to her place. So she got super drunk. Like, she literally had like this bottle of vodka. She chugged the entire bottle at one go. I can't believe she even did that, because it is a little shocking that somebody drank a bottle of vodka at one go like that, because I know for a fact that alcohol doesn't taste good, but she did that. And I was completely sober because I was just there as like a moral support. I honestly don't drink even now. I did not drink even back then, so I did not drink. But I was there with her for moral support. So I remember she got drunk out of her mind. She started drunk, calling her boyfriend saying, please take me back, why are you doing this to me? And she's like crying so badly, and then her boyfriend is on speaker, okay, I can actually hear him, and her boyfriend goes like, are you alone, like who are you with right now? And she goes like, I'm with Aiman. And then the boyfriend goes like, give the phone to her. So I speak to her boyfriend. So the boyfriend goes like, why on earth is she drunk out of her mind? Please like get her sober, like what are you guys even doing? And I remember telling him like, bro, I didn't know she would get so drunk. Because okay, this was the first time I saw a friend drunk, or honestly anybody drunk in my entire life. Because come on, I was 13-14 years old. I didn't even know what alcohol does to you. So this was like the first time I was seeing somebody get drunk. I didn't know what a person who's drunk behaves like. So I did not know that it could get that extreme to the point where like, you know, she's crying, she's out of control, I don't even know how to handle her, and she's crying so much. So her boyfriend goes like, okay fine, you know what, I'm gonna handle it. And then he cuts the call and he goes. So then I remember making her fall asleep, and I was like, okay, now you get some sleep, I'm gonna go home and I'll call you or text you later and ask you how you are. So I put her to sleep and I went back home. The next day, Akansha tells me that her boyfriend called her grandmother up, like Akansha's grandmother up, and told her everything, like this girl is drunk out of her mind, please take her to the hospital. So Akansha was taken to the hospital, she was made to puke all the alcohol that she drank, and you know, she was given drips and all of that, and then she finally recovered. But this happened. You know, at the time, since I had no sense and I was so young, and this was like a very strong influence I had in my life, and come on, this girl was my best friend as well, right? So your friends can play a huge role in influencing you. So because I would see this woman cutting herself so much, I somewhere thought it was okay to self-harm. During this phase of mine where she was trauma dumping on me and also self-harming a lot, I was going through issues of my own. I've also had a very troubled childhood. I've not had like a very smooth upbringing with loving parents and all of that. In fact, I've had daddy issues growing up. Like, I have very bad problems with my father. My father is not even a topic that I'm very comfortable talking about. Maybe in the future, when I'm older, I will talk about it. But today, it's a story for another day. Growing up, I've not had the most healthy family upbringing. And I will talk about this some other time, not today. It's a story for another time. But yes, growing up, I did have a lot of issues with my father. And so since I had issues of my own going on in my house, and I had this friend of mine who would self-harm and trauma dump on me, it was kind of merging together is what I would say. Since I was going through so much of family issues back at home, and I was getting influenced by this girl, I was like, you know what? Maybe even I should start self-harming. So one random day, I bought a blade, and with no intentions of harming myself. I just bought the blade because I was like, let me just buy it and keep it. It was not like, okay, I have a blade now, let me cut myself. No, I just bought it because I was like, let me just have it. Which was a pretty bad thing for me to have done, because it's like having a box of cigarettes just in case, even if you don't smoke. You know you're not going to smoke, but you have the pack of cigarettes with you, right? So I always knew that I had this blade with me. So one day what happened, I got into an intense fight with my father to the point where I was so upset that I went inside the washroom with that blade and started cutting myself. Now, in case you guys are wondering how come cutting myself did not hurt enough for me to stop cutting myself, let me explain. When you're going through so much intense emotional pain, physical pain seems a little less compared to the emotional pain. I still remember that day when I came out of the washroom with like slits on my arm, and then I called up one of my friends. His name is Rohit. Yeah, his real name is also Rohit. I remember calling him up, and I remember telling him, look, this is what I have done. And he yelled at me saying, what is wrong with you? Like, just don't do that ever again. You know, yeah, your situation is bad, but that doesn't mean you self-harm and all of that. That friend of mine was the only one who put sense into my head back at the time to not do such a thing. I didn't realize it at the time, but having people like Rohit around was so important for me back then, because I was here with this friend of mine who was influencing me in such a bad way. I needed somebody to like rescue me from that situation, and he was that helping hand at the time. It is so important to be there for your friends, especially one who's going through something, because you don't know how much they may be needing it. Always be there for your friends, especially if you care about them enough, because even a straw of hope can really make them feel hopeful again, and you can literally save lives by just being there for your friends. You never know how much your friends need you. So I remember the next day I went to school and I met Akansha in school, and I remember showing her my arm saying, "Look, I cut myself yesterday." And this woman was proud of me. She was actually proud of me. She was like, "Wow, Aiman, it looks so good." What the hell? I can't believe guys, I still can't believe that was her reaction when she found out I was cutting myself. And the crazy thing is, I was not the only friend that she was influencing like this. There was another friend that she had, okay, who was also cutting herself because of the influence that this Akansha girl had on her. Like they say, if you hang out with 3 people who work out, you will be the 4th one. If you hang out with 3 losers, you will be the 4th loser. It's almost like that. Now here is where things got a little too messy for me. She was in the same school as me, like I mentioned earlier. So after I graduated from school and I got into college, she was not in the same college as me. But the influence that she had on me at such a young age, I carried it with me even during college. Every time things got bad for me in my relationships or college or at home, I would start self-harming, even though I did not have this girl in my life anymore. So imagine the kind of impact she had on me. Because I was so young, it was so easy for her to have influenced me that I carried that influence even in my college days when she was no longer in my life. So I remember this one time I was going through some personal issues and I grabbed the blade, as I always did, and I started self-harming, and that was the first time I cut myself a little too deep. It was unbearably painful, and I still remember that day. I remember how bad the pain was. I still have that scar on my arm and it was so painful, and then I had to literally snap myself out of it. I had to literally tell myself, what on earth are you doing? Why are you doing this to yourself? You really don't have to punish yourself more than you're already going through. You're already going through enough emotional pain. You don't have to physically hurt yourself as well. And that was the day I threw the blade away and I told myself I'm never going to do that to myself ever again. I did have a few friends back then who knew I was self-harming, but it's not like they could do anything about it. They can only like advise me to stop doing it. Finally, I had to rescue myself. And finally, that's what happened. I had to rescue myself. I had to make myself snap out of it. And I know that it's easier said than done to just snap out of it, but that's exactly what I had to do. I threw that blade away and I never ever hurt myself that way ever again. I can't speak for everyone, but personally speaking for me, the reason why I would self-harm was because it was like giving yourself external pain, because you are just either feeling very overwhelmed or you sometimes just feel like punishing yourself for no reason at all. It was just such a traumatic time. I can't believe I did that to myself. I can't believe I thought like things were so bad that I had to like punish myself for it. It was just a very dark, sad time, and I would never put myself through that ever again. And I strongly do believe that my friend also did not do it out of attention seeking or any of that sort. I'm sure she had her genuine reasons, but like romanticizing it, being so proud of it, was something that she genuinely shouldn't have done. And honestly, I don't blame her. I know she had her issues of her own. She came from a very sad background, and she was just 1 year older than me. It's not like she had a lot of maturity in her. So I know for a fact she had her own reasons, but this was one of those traumatic times in my life where I got influenced in a bad way, where it did a lot of damage to me. It did a lot of damage to my self-esteem. It did a lot of damage to my self-respect and self-worth. And I would never put myself through that kind of friendship ever again. I no longer self-harm, and if you are somebody who's going through the same, or if you know somebody who's going through a similar situation, please be there for them, or please reach out to an elder person or a psychologist for these kind of issues. The moral of today's story is be very careful with the kind of friends you hang out with. Your friends can be a huge influence in your life, and they can literally make or break you. So cut that friendship off before they cut you. Some friendships need to die, and the faster you realize this, the better it's gonna be for you. Obviously back then I did not realize how toxic this woman was for me, but now that I know, now I cut people off left, right and center if I feel like they don't align with who I am, they don't align with my values, they're disrupting my mental peace. I cut people off left, right and center now, but back then I was such a people pleaser. I just wanted to have best friends all around me, so I would make the most crappiest friends ever. Again, this story, I'm not sharing it with you guys to put my friend down. I still think of her as a very good person, but she was just too troubled, and I think she influenced me in a bad way. I'm done with my makeup. Thank you guys so much for giving me company while I got ready. I'm gonna leave now. So thank you guys so much for watching today's YouTube video. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and I will see you guys next time. Love ya. Bye.